Hey there, innovation champions. Melissa Dinwiddie here. Imagine the scene for a moment. I'm standing in my studio. I'm holding a pristine stretched canvas that I've owned for years. It's still wrapped in the plastic. It is still untouched. Why? Because every time I've looked at it, my inner gremlin, my inner gremlin whispers at me, "Who are you to paint on canvas? You're not good enough for canvas." Sound familiar? Do you have one of these? Oh my God. Back when I was a professional artist, I had really grand intentions. I subscribed to art journals. I would bookmark calls for entry. I'm going to put this little gremlin down. I would dream about exhibitions, but here's the embarrassing truth. I rarely actually submitted anything because the perfectionism and the comparison trap had me so paralyzed that I would rather dream about opportunities than risk the vulnerability of actually pursuing them and, probably not getting in, right? So those gremlin voices, the "you're not good enough, who do you think you are, that piece sucks," they were running the show. So fast forward to years later, I had retired from my art business, shut it down, and I had returned to art purely for joy. And I was experimenting with what would later become my Creative Sandbox Way principles and later become my book, The Creative Sandbox Way. And on this particular day, I finally peeled that canvas out of its plastic prison and I pulled out ink and paint and brushes and even fabric for collage. And for maybe an hour, I don't know, I lost track of time, I went completely wild. And in the Hollywood version of this story, I created a masterpiece, right? But in reality, it was absolutely spectacularly ugly. But here's what changed everything. I didn't let that bother me because the experience of creating was pure magic. It was like I was buzzing. I remember it was like my feet were like 2 inches off the ground. I wasn't just in flow, I was in a state of just complete uninhibited joy. Here is the sort of plot twist. Although that canvas was really hideous after that first session, I kept working on it. I don't remember, it was several days, maybe weeks, layer after layer, session after session. And today, it's actually one of my favorite pieces. In fact, I have it over here. Let's see if I can grab it. Here it is. This is it. It's got lots of layers. It's very textured. I used crackle paste. It actually started this way. You can see the drips. What you can't see is hidden under these many layers is actually some scraps of some flannel pajama fabric that had robots on it, I think. Anyway, that's the piece. This experience taught me something really profound about innovation barriers. I was unconsciously practicing what I now call the Create the Impossible framework, even before I had language for it. The barriers to innovation, it turns out, are not technical, they're psychological. They're the same forces that kept me from submitting to art shows, that kept that canvas wrapped in plastic for years. And in the tech world, I see these barriers everywhere. Teams paralyzed by the need to have the perfect solution before starting. Brilliant minds convinced that they're not creative enough. Organizations where failure feels dangerous instead of educational. The relentless pursuit of polish over progress. But what if we could systematically remove these barriers? What if we could create environments where breakthrough innovation becomes as natural as breathing? This is exactly what the Create the Impossible framework does. It's built on 3 core principles that directly address the psychological barriers to innovation. So let's go through them one at a time. Step 1, play hard. So remember being 4 years old? You could build impossible structures with blocks. You could paint purple elephants. You could create entire worlds from cardboard boxes. But somewhere along the way, we learned that professional means serious, that innovation requires suits and whiteboards and perfectly formatted presentations. Play hard challenges this. It is about approaching problems with curiosity instead of anxiety, with experimentation instead of expectation. When teams embrace play, they lower the stakes, they reduce fear of failure, and they access divergent thinking. That's the kind of thinking that leads to breakthrough innovations. So that's step 1. Step 2, make crap. And this, I know can sound kind of, I don't know, very non-corporate, right? But it might be the most revolutionary principle in innovation. We live in a culture that is obsessed with polish, obsessed with getting it right the first time. But innovation doesn't work that way. Every groundbreaking innovation started as somebody's ugly canvas. It started rough, imperfect, maybe even laughable. Make crap gives teams permission to create terrible first drafts, ugly prototypes, half-baked ideas. It is the antidote to analysis paralysis. When you're allowed to make crap, you actually start making things. And here's the secret. Most so-called crap isn't actually crap. It's just unfinished. It's the raw material that becomes brilliance through iteration. So that's step 2. Step 3, learn fast. This third pillar transforms how we think about failure. So instead of something to avoid, failure becomes data. Every misstep becomes a stepping stone. In traditional innovation cultures, failure often means project death. But in a learn fast culture, failure means course correction. Teams become anti-fragile. They don't just survive setbacks, they use them as fuel for breakthrough thinking. When these 3 principles work together, something really magical happens. Teams stop being afraid of imperfection. They start generating more ideas because the pressure is off. They iterate faster because they're not attached to any single solution. And they develop what I call innovation confidence, the deep knowing that they can create solutions to problems that they haven't even imagined yet. So think about your current team or organization. Where do you see these barriers showing up? Are people waiting for perfect information before starting? Do team members hesitate to share half-baked ideas? Is there an unspoken pressure to have polished solutions in early stage discussions? Do people avoid taking creative risks because failure just feels too costly? These are the invisible forces keeping breakthrough innovations locked away. When we systematically remove these barriers, when we give ourselves and our teams permission to play hard, make crap, and learn fast, we unlock something really profound: the freedom to create. Not just the freedom to execute someone else's vision, but the freedom to imagine entirely new possibilities, the freedom to tackle problems that seem impossible, the freedom to innovate not just incrementally, but exponentially. And this is exactly what I experienced that day with my really ugly canvas. And this is what thousands of teams are discovering through the Create the Impossible framework. So, your challenge this week is to choose one innovation barrier that you've identified in your team or organization. And this week, experiment with removing it. So if perfectionism is the barrier, try a Make Crap Monday session where the goal is to generate the worst possible solutions to a real problem. If fear of failure is the issue, implement learning sprints where teams intentionally try approaches that might not work and celebrate the learning regardless of the outcome. Now, if play feels too frivolous, introduce 15-minute play breaks during problem-solving sessions. Build with Lego. Try improv exercises or doodle while brainstorming. The goal isn't perfection. It's permission. Permission to think differently, to create freely, and to innovate without limits. Because on the other side of those barriers, that's where the impossible becomes inevitable. Ready to systematically remove innovation barriers and create the freedom to innovate in your team or organization? Click the link in the description to book a complimentary innovation strategy session. Let's explore how the Create the Impossible framework can help you transform perfectionism into breakthrough innovation and unlock your team's creative potential. If you found these insights about removing innovation barriers valuable, hit that like button and subscribe to join our community of innovation champions. Don't forget to ring that notification bell so you never miss a new strategy for driving creativity and innovation in your work. And I'd love to know your thoughts on this topic. Have you experienced teams where innovation barriers held back great ideas? Or maybe you've been part of a culture where people felt free to experiment and take creative risks. Share your insights in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious, stay playful, and keep creating the impossible. See you next time. Ciao.